Okay, so today we're going to be asking the question, is flowery writing a good thing? And my answer is, it depends. Let's start off with a definition of what flowery writing is. Flowery writing is a writing style that is more advanced than your standard writing style when it comes to a book. Fancy schmancy advanced writing that is to the point where you need a translator to try and translate what it is that they're trying to say is one way. Another way is to overly describe something and be incredibly descriptive. Now, I want to give a couple of examples of books that do feature flowery writing. Nevernight by J. Christoph. This book is particularly flowery, and that is very obvious from the moment you pick up the book. It is just written in such a way that you get through the first couple of pages and you're just thinking, what the heck is going on here? The Starless Sea is another example of that. While not as flowery as Nevernight, the Starless Sea has flowery writing when it comes to certain descriptions. And finally, 1984 by George Orwell. Now, granted, this is a classic, so it was written a long time ago, but this comes back to the type of wording that is being used. Now, some people might just call this a classic writing style that was used way back when, but when we compare that to modern day literature and the way the books are written now, if you pick up that book today, despite the fact that it's a classic, comparatively to modern day writing, most classic books are going to come across as though they have a flowery writing style because the writing seems a lot more complicated and complex. Let's get into answering this question, and I'm going to start answering this question off by discussing two different types of readers when it comes to reacting to a flowery writing style. And the first type of reader I'm going to discuss with you is the reader who goes into a book because they want to see how amazing the writing is that the author has done. Oh, wow. Oh, her writing is just so beautiful. Then there is the reader who goes into a book because they want to read the story. They are not there to read of some fancy schmancy writing style. They want something basic because their whole reason for being there is to get lost in the story and to follow the characters. What? Wait, what is she trying to say there? Now she has to describe every rock. Trust me, it can be extremely frustrating. There is a discussion that I have had, particularly with my mother, for many, many years about a particular writing exercise for any type of a writer. And this writing exercise is called, Why is a Grape Green? The purpose of this writing exercise is to dig deeper, to really explore a particular object for what it is rather than looking at it at a surface level. For me, because I'm one of those readers who doesn't read a book for the sake of the writing style, I'm the second type of reader who reads a book for the sake of its story and the characters and all of that. When I'm asked the question, why is a grape green? My answer is, because it is. Whereas my mother, who is on the other side of the scale, who really appreciates looking into the dimensions of an object, would more answer along the lines of the way that it is, planted and the type of seeds that are being used. But, it's a really interesting thing, and she can go on for pages and pages. Another thing that I want to discuss about this is if we take the question, why is a grape green, and we more phrase that in the way of, what can you tell me about this grape? Again, my mother and I are going to come up with two different answers. My answer is going to be, well, it's a green grape, and it's round, and I want to eat it. Whereas my mother's answer would be, okay, well, A lot of people will say it's a green grape, but the specific type of green that it is this type of green. Now, some people are going to say that it's round, but it's actually more oblong. Now, it is rather soft and smooth on the outside, but when you cut it open, it has a rather fleshy center. This grape is rather sour, which is kind of unusual because I'm used to more sweet grapes. And the reason why it's sour is because the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this shows a difference between two different types of authors. When we localize a difference between authors with the discussion on flowery writing, a flowery writing style type author is going to go down the route that my mother would go down, which is, this is a grape and I'm now going to give you a ton of descriptive exposition as to what makes this grape this particular grape, where the non-flowery writer, the ones that I prefer, are just going to say there's a grape, it was sitting on the counter, the boy picked it up and ate it, moving on. Again, when I go back to that question of, is flowery writing a good thing? The answer, again, still is, it depends. And it really does depend, because it depends on the type of reader that you're going to get. And it depends on the reader's intention. Now, I've done a little bit of research on this, and I think I can say that the majority of readers think more along the lines that I do. The type of reader who will pick up a book purely to look at the writing style and not for the sake of the book itself. These are the types of readers who will walk away saying, look, the plot was fine, but that's not why I was reading it. I honestly didn't think the writing style was that good. I think, if I compare it to author B just has a much better writing style. Or they'll say, look, the writing style was just amazing. Look, the plot wasn't so good, but, the writing style was so good that it fully made up for the fact that the story just wasn't that good. Highly disagree. But anyway, you can see how there is no one conclusive answer. But what I will say is, because those who love flowery writing, and specifically those who read books based purely on the writing style alone, that is their, not only is that their prerogative, but that is their main reason why they pick up a book, is to read the writing style. That is a niche type of reader. That's a very small amount of readers who will pick up a book because they want to read the writing style. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't readers out there who pick up a book because they want to read the writing style and they want it to be a good writing style while at the same time having a good story. I'm not saying that. But if I am to focus purely on those who pick up the book purely for the writing style, that is a very niche type group. Now, I want to talk to you guys more about a specific example when it comes to descriptions in books and how flowery they can be. I'm just going to pluck an idea out of thin air. Let's just say I'm reading a book and I'm being introduced to my protagonist in this book. The protagonist I'm reading about, her name is Melissa. Author A is saying, Melissa was 6'7" and she had brown hair. She picked up her coat and left her room to start her day. That is author A. Now, author B will say, Melissa was 6'7". She had long brown hair and grey eyes that were so grey it felt like you could see her soul, and her soul appeared like it was dying. Melissa normally only wore red, but today, despite the fact that she was wearing red, she also had a yellow button. Now, the inscription on the button read, "Fight fire with fire," and in the centre of that button was the symbol of the flames of fire, red melding into yellow, melding into white. Next to the badge, there was a little emblem on her t-shirt, which was a star, and the star had a very intricately detailed pattern. Now, as you can see here, for readers who are like me, who are more about the story than flowery writing, we prefer what person A is saying. We're going, okay, great, what's she going to be doing with the rest of her day? Where if I'm reading what person B has written, I'm thinking, why are we still talking about everything to do with her, like her description, when it's really not moving the story forward? It's kind of bogging us down in the description that doesn't really matter. Now, there is an exception to the rule. Let's just say that the star emblem on her t-shirt, the intricate design of that star, has significance to the book. Then that's a different story. Let's just say that, unbeknownst to Melissa, this t-shirt was actually originally made for people in a secret society, and ultimately she finds someone who starts up a discussion with her at school who says, I couldn't help but notice that star, and with more discussions they end up having, she realizes he has the star too, he's part of a club, she joins the club, finds out she has magical powers, yada yada yada, then it makes sense to introduce the star. But at the same time, you wouldn't go on and on about her eyes and the fact that she always dresses red and the button and all that. You would just say, Melissa was 5'7", someone who was 5'7", had brown hair, and today she just happened to be wearing a red t-shirt that had a star on it. Now, the interesting thing about the star, you would hone in on the star. You would not run amok, I guess, in a way, describing all these different other things. Case in point example of an overly descriptive series is J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings series. Whether you were looking at The Hobbit or any of the 3 books, they're all incredibly descriptive. And you want to know the really funny thing? The Hobbit is actually a middle grade book, and yet it's still incredibly descriptive. J.R.R. Tolkien cannot have his characters walk past something without fully describing it to the point that the reader knows exactly every single detail about that item. Let's take, for example, a rock. J.R.R. Tolkien would say, Melissa walked past a rock. She noticed that it was really jagged, and that in comparison to other rocks, the reason why it was so jagged was because the others were so smooth. This particular rock was rather brown. Not exactly like a dark brown, more like a lighter brown, and the other rocks surrounding them were grey. Now, they weren't all the one type of grey. They were all different types of grey, but because they were grey, they made that brown rock really stand out. Now, what else stood out about it? And you can see how this is so frustrating for a reader because we're not here to discuss the rock. The rock, in the context that I'm giving this example, the rock doesn't mean anything for the sake of the story. Now, this rock is insignificant. It doesn't matter. Melissa is just purely passing the rock by on her way from point A to point B. But because she is passing something, J.R.R. Tolkien, in his infinite wisdom, can't help but overly describe this minute thing that doesn't matter to its fullest degree. That can be incredibly annoying, and trust me, I forced myself, and never again will I do this, but this was back in April last year, so roughly a year ago. I forced myself to read all 4 of those books, The Hobbit and the 3 Lord of the Rings books, and every single one of them were so flowery to the point of nauseousness. Like, it was just ridiculous to me. But there are readers out there who absolutely love what J.R.R. Tolkien did. Do I get this? No. But if I am to look at it from a neutral perspective in answering the question, is flowery writing a good thing? Well, for fans of Lord of the Rings, naturally it is. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of people reviewing Lord of the Rings saying, I loved Lord of the Rings, I didn't like how descriptive J.R.R. Tolkien was, but everything else I loved. I'm not seeing that. They're saying, I loved everything about Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien is an amazing writer, da 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 da. Is flowery writing a good thing? Again, it depends. It really depends on the type of reader that is picking up your book. So, how do I think we should go about solving this? Well, I have a way that I want to solve it, but, do I think this is going to happen? Probably not. I would like for there to be a warning sign that makes it obvious when a reader picks up a flowery book. Maybe there can be a square with, and inside the square we have a picture of a flower somewhere on the book somewhere that's a little symbol that shows everyone this is a flowery writing style book. Or maybe there can be a quote on the cover saying, the writing style is so beautiful, which is another way of saying it is a flowery writing style, because people aren't going to say a writing style is beautiful if it's written simplistically. So, maybe even that could work. I'd love for there to be a universal way to be able to tell before you've even started page 1 that this book is going to be flowery, whether it is a very low flowery book, a medium flowery book, or a very advanced flowery, everything is full of flowers and daisies and roses and hyacinths and all these kind of things. I mean, I don't want you to describe every single thing to me when I'm not here for you to talk about how many petals there are on a flower and what shade of purple the petals on the flower is. But anyway, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. no one answer is ever going to be the right one. As I said, there are so many different types of readers out there. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. But that is where I am going to leave it, letting you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading!